Good evening, I'm Angie Bevan.
I'm Kevin Christopher. Thanks for joining us at 11. One of the most watched races of the evening was the one for Kentucky's 6th Congressional District, with a number of Democrats hoping to challenge Republican Andy Barr this November. As
expected, Barr earned the vast majority of the votes in the Republican primary. As for the Democrats, there you see Barr, of course, defeating Eddie, and then Democrats, Amy McGrath will be moving on to face Barr in this November's general election. Lexington Mayor Jim Gray was runner-up and conceded to McGrath this evening, and State Senator Reggie Thomas was a distant third. Well, she is new to politics, and she is headed to the November ballot to face an incumbent congressman.
Just before 9 this evening, Amy McGrath thanked her supporters at a victory celebration in Madison County, and LEX 18's Michael Burke was there.
Well, it certainly makes for better TV to say that this was a stunning upset, but I'm not sure any of the political experts would agree with that. Amy McGrath is certainly an unknown 10 months ago, but her campaign and the manner in which she ran that enabled her to close the gap and ultimately win the day.
Just before the clock struck 8 at McGrath's election night party, someone yelled out that Jim Gray had conceded. And just like that, the right to challenge for the congressional seat in Washington in November belonged to the unheralded former Marine fighter pilot. Her military career beat the odds. So did her first political campaign.
What happened tonight is amazing. I couldn't be more honored and more humbled to be standing here tonight as your nominee. Now, let's go win another.
So after tonight, McGrath will take a deep breath, gather her thoughts, and get ready for the general election against the incumbent, Andy Barr, in the fall. Covering the news in Madison County from the LEX 18 mobile newsroom, let's send it back to you.
Well, after 12 years in political office as Lexington's vice mayor and mayor, Jim Gray says his next job is to support Amy McGrath.
LEX 18's Lee Searcy was there when Gray conceded.
Well, this is not the ending that Jim Gray wanted, but he vows to do whatever he can to help Amy McGrath win in the fall. Jim Gray's supporters watched the returns, and the numbers didn't lie. Their candidate of choice, who was considered a strong favorite in the beginning, lost to a political newcomer. Many people thought Gray's negative ad about Amy McGrath running for Congress in a district she only moved to last year backfired big time. Many took offense to it, since McGrath was serving her country at the time. Early in the evening, Gray conceded and wished McGrath well.
It was a spirited campaign, and I know that Andy Barr is in for the fight of his life. I am ready to help Amy, and I want all of you to join me.
As for any future plans?
Tomorrow, I'll be back at work in the mayor's office with no regrets.
Covering the news in Lexington, Lee Searcy, LEX 18 News.
Well, as Angie mentioned earlier, no surprise, Republican Andy Barr handily defeated his challenger, Chuck Eddy.
Here you see it again, Andy Barr with 84% of that vote, defeating Chuck Eddy with only 16%.
The issues that we want to engage on in this fall, it doesn't matter who the Democrats nominate, because it's really not about Republican or Democrat. It's about solving problems for the people of Central and Eastern Kentucky. It's about being effective and getting results. And we've been getting results for the people of Central and Eastern Kentucky. And so we're looking forward to the debate.
So where does Amy McGrath go from here? She does not have a whole lot of political experience, but is about to take on an incumbent in Washington.
LEX 18's political analyst Bob Babbage here to tell us what she's up against and what turned the tide for her in this campaign, Bob.
Remember that first look we got at Amy McGrath? It was like, wow, it had a different feel, a different look.
Real, yet forceful.
All of that,
yeah,
and more. So it became a phenom, a phenomenal kind of reaction that people had. And Gray, highly popular, well-known, obviously the favorite early on, ran into a different kind of circumstance than people would in most districts around the country and historically.
Did he not react in time to the McGrath campaign? That was a very slick media campaign.
Very well done. She acknowledged that tonight.
Yeah.
You can tell she's new to the moment and terribly excited, and should be. And Gray was very classy in the concession. And Barr was excellent from Washington, talking about how he'll frame that race. In these moments of primaries, you can't read too much into it. You can't make an absolute prediction about November. It's a long way to go, a lot to be settled, a lot to be fought out.
All right.
McGrath did well and should keep doing what she did to get to this point. But things change now. We've had the semifinals. Now you go to the finals.
Yep.
We
Always
got
tougher.
about 5.5 months for her to get that plan in place. Thanks, Bob, as always. Well, state employee pensions and school funding, also hot topics this year in Frankfort as lawmakers worked on this year's state budget.
Now, the debate sparked protests and rallies as many worried about their futures. And some teachers, upset with that process, decided to take on the decision makers in Frankfort. One of them was Republican Travis Brendan, a Rockcastle County math teacher who ousted the majority leader of the Kentucky House of Representatives, Jonathan Schell, in the 71st District. In the 81st, Republican Wesley Morgan is out of office after rocking his own party, calling for the ouster of House Speaker Jeff Hoover in the midst of Hoover's sexual harassment allegations. Deanna Fraser winning that race 57% to 43%.
More numbers to break down.
More numbers to break down, indeed. Again, you can't overread or overdo some of the results tonight. You can't draw dramatic conclusions. 4 Republicans lost primaries who are sitting members of the House. All those had local aspects to them, though. You can't make a great big leap from those to any fall prediction for certain. And a Democrat lost in Louisville in a very tough race and very tough circumstances. So that brings to 26 the total of new faces we'll see in Frankfort, just as of now, with 21 not seeking to be elected again.
Pretty typical in a midterm, though. You're going to get some turnover.
You will always get turnover. That's a little bit more than average, and last time was more than average, too. So we have a lot going on, a lot to be redesigned now for the fall campaigns, and we'll have a heck of a fight in November. It's a long way from over.
Hopefully the turnout in the fall will be better than it was tonight, because the Secretary of State's office is reporting that the statewide turnout at the polls today was just a little more than 23.5%, so that fell well short of Secretary Grimes' original predictions.
Yeah, we expected a record, or she did.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen.
Didn't get it. Not near that 30. No.
No.
Thanks, Bob. As always, appreciate your insights and analysis.
Appreciate you both. Thank you.
Well, 7 candidates battled it out in Lexington's nonpartisan mayoral primary for the 2 spots in the general election this November.
Former Vice Mayor Linda Gorton took a commanding lead early and never let go. Behind her, former Lexington Police Chief and Public Safety Commissioner Ronnie Baston. Those two will meet again on the first Tuesday in November. Well, Gorton was celebrating early after being the top vote getter.
LEX 18's Steve Butera was with her campaign when the former vice mayor realized the numbers were squarely on her side.
Former Vice Mayor and Council member Linda Gorton says that she was surprised when she started seeing the numbers come in earlier this evening. She had the lead from the beginning and never looked back. And now she's going to take on Ronnie Baston in the November general elections. In fact, she took a call from Baston about an hour after the polls closed.
Just wish you the best of luck, and we'll have a good campaign of it, right?
Her watch party was elated as those numbers continued to pour in throughout the evening. And as I mentioned, that lead stayed through the night. She thanked her constituents at the Thomas Hunt Morgan House earlier, who says that the fight is far from over. She says that her transparency has stood out to voters, and now her journey to become Lexington's next mayor continues tonight.
We've had a great civil campaign, really respectful. And so it's very exciting to see that our hard work all paid off.
Now, one note here to think about. Out of the 7 potential nominees for Lexington mayor, Linda Gorton did not raise the most money, and yet was the top vote getter when all the votes were tallied, was the #1 for this evening. Now, her team says that they're going to be working on the November elections right away. They're going to start focusing on that with a debriefing in the next couple of days. But now we're covering the news in Lexington. From the LEX 18 Mobile Newsroom, back to you.
Lexington's former top cop Ronnie Baston got the 2nd spot in tonight's mayoral race, but still has a chance to become Lexington's next mayor.
The race was called early tonight, giving his camp plenty of time to really celebrate. Carolina Buchek has more.
The moment LEX 18 declared Ronnie Baston one of tonight's 2 winners, this room erupted into cheers. They started blasting the music, and he walked into people waving these signs, cheering, high-fiving. They said this was going to be a party.
As the crowd congratulated Baston on his win, he thanked his supporters for their votes today. He believes his leadership in the police department set him apart from the other candidates, and he believes that will help him win people's trust.
The fact that I had worked in public safety my whole life, and I can start day one dealing with some of our most important issues. I don't have a learning curve. I've led a very large organization. I think that separates me from the pack.
And now the long road to November begins. Ronnie Baston himself admitted that is going to take a lot of work, but he says he is up for the challenge, and he hopes voters will give him the job of mayor come this fall. Covering the news in Lexington from the LEX 18 Mobile Newsroom, back to you.
Well, there are 6 winners in the Urban County Council at Large race, with the November frontrunner also landing the vice mayor position.
Here's who we will see on November 6th. Steve Kay, Chuck Ellinger II, Richard Maloney, Adrian Wallace, Connie Kell, and Lily Miller Johnson. Now, as we said, the candidate with the most votes in November will be vice mayor. The next 2 will serve as council at-large members. After making international headlines for refusing to issue marriage licenses after same-sex marriage was legalized, several candidates were on the ballot in Rowan County for the chance to face County Clerk Kim Davis in November.
One of those, David Ermold, was denied a marriage license by Davis. And while he won't be moving on to November's general election, the man who lost to her by just 23 votes in 2014, Elwood Caudle Jr., will. LEX 18's Kylan Mills has more.
The numbers are in all 19 out of 19 precincts reporting here in Rowan County. Some tense moments here inside the courthouse while the votes were being tallied. There was a small crowd gathered here. We can now tell you Elwood Caudle Jr. has won the Democratic primary for county clerk. Caudle defeated highly publicized challenger David Ermold, who does have a history with Kim Davis. She denied Ermold a marriage license back in 2015 because he is gay. His campaign gained nationwide attention and donations. He finished second, though, in this primary. Jamie Jesse and Nashia Fife finished behind him in votes respectively. Caudle Jr. will now be going head-to-head with Davis for the second time. He is a lifelong resident and has worked in the Rowan County Property Valuation Office for the last 2 decades.
I love talking and working with people, so the best thing I can do is take care of them, and that's my passion, is take care of Rowan County and keep the media kind of down, keep it on low, and be done with it. I mean, we want to be back to normal as a family here in Rowan County because it's a great place to live.
Davis and Caudle Jr. will now face off in the November general elections. Davis declined to talk with us about the results of tonight's primary. Covering the news in Rowan County from the LEX 18 Mobile Newsroom. Back to you.
And remember, you can find complete election results on our website, lex18.com, and get that information when you're on the go on our free LEX 18